This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SAU Report. I'm Braden Harman, here alongside
Jeff Grissom.
We're here with Sheriff Tompkins today. Welcome to the show, Sheriff Tompkins.
I'm glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Columbia County Sheriff. Been sheriff now this is my second term, fourth year. Pastor a church here in the community. Been married to the same woman for 32 years. 4 children and 3 grandchildren.
Sheriff Tompkins, what has been your most memorable experience as sheriff?
Well, I'd have to say probably the one to mind is the one that made history was when I was arrested as a sheriff, chief law enforcement officer of the county at a crime scene here in Magnolia in the beginning of my tenure.
How long would you like to be sheriff?
Well, I really have never even thought about that. I don't try to venture too far off from the day's date. I'd like to be here as long as the public would like me to represent them.
Okay, what exactly does a sheriff do?
Well, the sheriff does a whole lot more than what I thought he did when I went in office. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county, a peace officer actually. We are in charge of 4 court systems: the municipal court, chancery, circuit, and also juvenile court system. We are in charge of serving all of the civil process, civil papers, and also criminal papers for the different court systems. And we transport all of the people that break the law that are sentenced through the court systems to the Arkansas Department of Corrections, 27 facilities. We maintain a flow of personnel that transports back and forth. We house in the county jail the people that break the law. So we're supposed to be the peacekeepers of the community as well as house those that break the law and have them prepared for court. Kind of the executive branch of law enforcement.
What are the prerequisites to become a sheriff?
Well, I'd like to say it would be a college education and a lot of law enforcement training and so forth, but it's really not. 51% of the vote is what allows an individual, a citizen of this community, to represent the people as sheriff.
Is there a certain age?
You have to be 21 years of age because you have to carry a firearm, so 21 years of age.
Okay, how often do you make a positive contribution to Columbia County?
Well, I'd like to think that I make a positive contribution every day. Every day when I get up to go to work, I try to do all that I can within my power and ability to be able to help some of the people in this community.
Is your job dangerous, and why or why not?
Well, yes, it is, and it can be, and it depends on what part of it you're doing. And since I've been in law enforcement, I've been stabbed a couple of times and shot at point blank a couple of times, and probably whooped on more than I'd like to speak of. It can be dangerous at times.
How supportive is your family of your job? Or they ever feel like you're endangered? Or?
Well, my family is very supportive. There would be times when maybe they wished I was not involved in law enforcement or I would get out of it, but something seems to take place or happen, such as, I look at it as kind of a fate thing, but something happens to restore their confidence into the system and how important it is for someone to take the initiative and want to give of their time and their resources and their well-being for the community.
If any of your children or family were interested in going into law enforcement, what would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them probably it's one of the least appreciative fields of endeavor. It's not one that you'll make a lot of money at, but it's very rewarding.
If you could go back to when you first took office as sheriff, what would you do different? And do you have any regrets?
Well, my term or tenure in office has been a very high profile, probably one of the most high profile sheriffs in the state of Arkansas. And what would I do different? I would try for it not to be as high profile as it has been. I don't know that I could do anything about that. I've tried, but I guess what I would do different would be I would try to acquire more legal assistance close to me and follow or take the advice of a lot of people that were had more legal knowledge than I do.
How long have you been involved with law enforcement?
Well, in the early 70s, I was a deputy sheriff and then chief deputy here in Columbia County. And then I worked for 17 months for the city of Magnolia as a patrol officer while I was, at that particular time I'd finished school here at SAU, which is now Southern Arkansas University. And then I left law enforcement, came back in 1974 as a constable in my township, and then ran for sheriff in 1996.
How long do you think it would take to master the duties of becoming a sheriff? Is it possible, or have you already done that?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm still trying to master them. It's a daily thing, and I don't know that anyone will ever master it. One of the biggest challenges you have is being sensitive to the needs of the people and seeing opportunities to help people rather than cause them hardships.
So is being sheriff a job that you just learn something new every day?
You go to work every day knowing that you're going to have a new experience, really.
If you were not the sheriff, or if you could not be the next sheriff, who would you want to fill your shoes?
I would like to, in fact, in the process as we speak now, as sheriff, my objective is to train someone in my office, or a number of people in my office, to be the next sheriff of Columbia County. I would like to see the next sheriff be one of the individuals or one of the employees that's presently working, and allow them to learn what I've had to learn, but not have to go through what I've had to go through. And I believe with all my heart when I do leave as sheriff that there will be someone in our department, or a number of people, qualified to be the next sheriff.
What are some characteristics that you feel that a good sheriff should have?
Well, I think the number one thing that you should have a strong faith, and you have a relationship with God, and from that you should have a lot of integrity. That's something that you'll have to stand on every day, and there'll be a lot of opportunities that you'll be challenged with your faith and what you stand for, the principles that you stand on. And you have to always remember that there's always a fine line between the law enforcement and the lawbreaker, and you're always balancing the two. And I know that may not come across, be receptive to some people, but it's kind of like the political part and the law enforcement part in the job of sheriff. You have to balance the two every day.
Have you ever been in or experienced something so negative in your years of law enforcement that just made you want to give it all up?
So negative. Well, I experience a lot of negative every day, nearly every day, and I have to say it's through not ever getting an opportunity to maybe tell my side, or for the public not to see what we actually see sometimes, when they're home asleep. I'll give you an example. Sometimes when you go to a crime scene, you see someone's child that's been maimed or hurt real bad, or maybe even on of death, and to experience some of those things, and then you go home and you see your own children and other people's children. There's a lot of things that you see, people's lifestyles that normally the public don't get an opportunity. People that's on different kinds of drugs, crack and so forth. People that give of themselves, give of their children. There's some people that even give their children up for drugs and for the habits they have. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of ugly sides to law enforcement. And I think that's why law enforcement officers have divorce rates very high, because of a lot of the stress level and things that they're exposed to that the public is not ever aware of, or are aware of it only through the media. And not only is divorce rate high, suicidal rate, law enforcement officers committing suicide is one of the highest rates. And I was surprised not long ago to find out that the #1 killer of law enforcement officers is accidents and not, self-inflicted wounds and so forth.
When you first began campaigning to be sheriff, did you really know what you was getting into?
Well, not to the extent that I've found out now. But when I was running for sheriff, I knew that there was a lot of problems in Columbia County. It had gotten to a place of being very lackadaisical. Let me add this. One of the biggest challenges I knew I'd have was one with confronting and trying to restructure the 13th Judicial District Drug Task Force that we have. And because there was a lot of problems there was a lot of accountability not being taken. There was the sheriffs in each of the 6 counties. Some were involved and some weren't. Some of the chief of police were involved in the drug task force and some weren't. There were a lot of forfeitures being done and a lot of seizures being taken. Before I even came in office, I knew that there were a lot of people that had had private property taken from them, or charges made and charges dropped, property taken from them and seized without any laws being violated. And it was going to be a very controversial thing because it was really an attack or challenge I was taking on with the 13th Judicial District Drug Task Force as well as judicial system, because it's made up of so many lawyers and very not powerful people, but very professional people in their field. And I just knew that was a challenge. And in my own family, I had children involved in drug culture here in this community, and many of their friends. Mm-hmm. And because of my experience as a parent and as a pastor, I knew that it was going to be a big challenge, and that was my main objective, was to try to attack that head on and try to correct it and get it straightened out. Okay. And we did. We got a new drug task force. Now we have a new prosecutor, new deputy prosecutors. Now we have all of our chief of police back into the system, a part of the board, and all of the sheriffs in all the 6 counties, and the state is very involved in it. And we got new drug legislation laws. So there was a lot of things changed since I've been in office.
Do you think that drugs are the #1 problem in Magnolia right now?
I think the drugs are probably the #1 problem throughout the state, not just in Magnolia. I think that in Magnolia or Columbia County, it's less than it was before I came in office. There's no question about that. Not only statistics prove that, but a lot of people that we are trafficking now is from other counties or even from other states.
What message would you send out to a drug offender that could be watching or whatever, from the sheriff's department?
Well, drug trafficking is not going to be tolerated in Columbia County, and there is it's very intense drug eradication going on in Columbia County as we speak. Even now, there's undercover agents in Columbia County, in and out of Columbia County, from the DEA to the 13th Judicial District Drug Task Force at all times. And of course, not only our patrol officers, but the city and the state agencies are very involved in eradication and traffic stops and so forth. And of course, now we have more dogs sniffing drugs. And in the last 3 years, the 3 years that I've been in office, we haven't really found much drugs as far as marijuana growing and we bring in every year helicopters and go all over the county. And our county has basically been drug-free for 3 years.
All right. What is your approval rating right now, and why do you think that is?
Well, that's a good question. From the political side of it, I'd have to say, so far my political standing has been probably 65, 67, 68%. It has been. I've ran 6 races since I've been in office, and a lot of politicians don't run that many races in a lifetime. I've ran second in one of the primaries last year against a former employer of mine who was a former sheriff here. But besides that one race, I've had good standings, and now that we're in the eve of a political, we're in a political race now, but the eve of a primary election, I still believe that I'm holding at least 51% of the votes, or the favors, you know.
If you aren't elected as sheriff come up the next term, what are your plans?
Well, I really don't like to think of not being sheriff because that's kind of what if, and it's looking backwards rather than forward. I'm a very positive individual. I try to look at things from a positive perspective. I guess that I will be, if I shouldn't be elected, I'll probably just continue my ministry. And when I went into the office as sheriff, I looked at it as just a larger parish, provide me a larger parish to minister in, and which it's afforded that, you know, it's given me that opportunity to help a lot of people. I know so many more people now, not only in Columbia County, but all over the state of Arkansas, and we've expanded our own personal ministry into other ministries in the state, my wife and I, so we'll probably just be more involved in ministry and working with people, not only in Columbia County, throughout the state.
Does law enforcement in Columbia County receive enough credit?
No, I don't think law enforcement in Columbia County, nor does any of the other counties or any state agencies in the state. Like I said earlier, law enforcement is not it's not an appreciative type work unless you actually need a law enforcement officer at the time. And in Columbia County, I don't think it is, to the extent that we're getting less than what we should. The different jobs or the criteria, whatever that the sheriff does, I went in office with 11 deputies, and now because of the finances in the county, I have 9 deputies. So I'm doing the job, and not only the elected offices or elected positions that we're supposed to be fulfilling as sheriff and deputies, we've taken on other things. We try to provide law enforcement on all the school campuses in the county. That's one thing that we see that's a coming need. Someone's going to have to be on those campuses to provide security so the teachers can teach. We do those things. We escort nearly all the funeral services all over the county and throughout the city. Any kind of festival, any kind of fundraiser, nearly any organization, nonprofit or other, in the county has, we provide security for them in the county fair, Blossom Festival, and all the other festivals. So there's a lot to do, but as far as your question is it appreciated like it should be? I don't think it is, because we've had our staff cut because of finances. We're working this year under a budget that's equivalent to 1994 budget, and here we are nearly in the year 2001. So that's not a very good appreciative slap on the back for law enforcement.
Okay, since being elected, have you ever felt like anyone was out to get you?
Well, I've had that question asked me a number of times. It just depends. I don't know whether it's me or it's the position. I just don't know what it is. I've had reporters from Little Rock to tell me that it seems to be a very powerful political structure of business people and people with political ties that are doing everything that they can to try to get me out of office in Columbia County, and they can't understand why I would be such a threat in southwest Arkansas to other parts of the state. I don't know, but I do know that there's a lot of political push to get me out of office, and a lot of it's, I think, due to being a high-profile sheriff and attacking the professionals that I've taken on in the very beginning through the 13th Judicial District Drug Task Force.
Is Columbia County Sheriff's Office up to par with area sheriff's offices? Are they better or worse? And if they aren't up to par, is it because of the financial funding?
Well, we've been able to work around the financial part of it. In fact, we're offering far more than what we were even able to offer a year ago, because we have a lot of employees that love what they do, and they contribute a lot of free time to the job to be able to accomplish that. I think that we're respected probably as much as any agency throughout the state. Anywhere we go in the state of Arkansas, they know the Columbia County deputies and Sheriff's Department, and they have they respect us just like any other agency.
Do you feel that there's been any controversy that has surrounded your office since you've become sheriff?
There's been a lot of controversy. My controversy seems to be with the media, and that you're not exactly the media, but you might say because I'm not a yes person, and I don't think that a sheriff is a person that's supposed to be a yes person to everything, regardless. I think you have certain principles and you have certain integrity you stand on, and when those things are challenged, you have to stand up to them. I think that because I kick, you might say, I kick the bureaucracy in the rear. I cut the red tape. If you've got a problem, you want to know how to get it solved, you come to me. I'll pick the phone up and find someone that can. There's one thing I learned when I went to school out here. I might not have left this place with a lot of education. I might not have left with a lot of knowledge. I was exposed to a lot. I had a lot of good examples and a lot of good teachers out here. But one thing they did teach me to do was if you don't know the answers, you know where you can go find the answer. And so now, I'll give you an example. I may have someone come into my office 80-something years of age. They're trying to find the welfare office or some other state agency. Well, I have this is my policy, and this is what I implement with my employees. You're to serve the public. If they want to know how to find that place and you're sitting on your can and don't have anything to do right now, get in your car and drive across town and either take them or leave them. And if someone wants to make a phone call or they want to find someone, if they will ask me what they need, I'll pick the phone up and find out. That's one thing that the public has a misconception. They think that the sheriff is just a law enforcement officer. We do a lot of things to help a lot of people in this community. There are lots of times, especially when the legislature's in session, we spend a lot of times in the Capitol trying to help people in our community get things passed or get laws stopped that would affect our people. We do a lot of lobbying. The Arkansas Sheriff Association is probably one of the strongest lobbying groups in the state. We have people right here at the university that contact us a number of times because they're affected by legislation, and people contact us and want us to help them, talk to legislators and get bills passed or get bills squashed. And so anything from Social Security to helping a speech pathologist, keep the certification that they're supposed to have, or the accrediting that the state requires. We do a lot of things for a lot of people in the community to make our community a better place to live, even far and above law enforcement, and that's a lot of people forget that.
Just real quick, we was talking about the local media and controversy. Do you think that you have a good or a bad relationship with the area?
Well, I think I have a wonderful relationship with them. I do, because there's a lot of public officials, especially sheriffs and law enforcement officers, that won't talk to the media at all. We have a tendency to move into an area in law enforcement to be very paranoid of the public. And I haven't moved into that position yet, and I think being sensitive to people and being in the ministry also and being a public official, as an elected public official, keeps me humble and keeps me sensitive to the public's right to know. So I do try to work with the media and give them all the information that I can when they want to know something. In fact, sometimes I probably give them more information than I should, not only locally but statewide.
Sheriff Tompkins, we're almost out of time, but I have just one last question for you. If you could sum up your tenure as sheriff in one word, what would that word be?
Well, it's been a wonderful experience.
Wonderful experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for letting me be on the program.
Thanks for coming.
With the SAU Report, I'm Braden Harman.
And I'm Jeff Grissom.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.